Right. Today we're going to be talking about the prophecies concerning Muhammad in the Bible. We're going to be the prophecies focusing in Revelation chapter 9, which is takes an extension of the trumpets in Revelation chapter 8. We'll actually be covering those in a different video. This video is the first of two. It gives some needed background information, specifically in the book of Daniel, that's needed to really understand what's going on in the prophecies, and helps set the framework needed to establish when and where those prophecies in Daniel and Revelation chapter 9 take place. Now, Peter gives us some very interesting information here. He says, "For we have not followed cunningly devised fables when we made known unto you the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but were eyewitnesses of his majesty. For we received from God the Father glory, honor, and glory, when there came such a voice to him from the excellent glory, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. And this voice which came from heaven we heard, when we heard him in the holy mount. We also have a more sure word of prophecy, whereunto ye do well that ye take heed, as unto a light that shineth in a dark place, until the day dawn and the day star arise in your heart." So Peter's telling them something. He's saying that he heard God's voice speak to him from heaven. But he said that prophecy is more sure than even that. Prophecy is more sure than even a voice from heaven. And this is very important in the study of Islam in the Bible, from the biblical perspective, because whatever the prophecies say, that is more certain than anything you could possibly see, read. Anyone could tell you. What the Bible says is the actual truth, no matter what you may hear from other people. And that's very important, especially in the West, where you tend to get a lot of things taken out of context, things that are twisted, and you also have a very difficult time separating like fanatics from what Muhammad really taught, and people must have a lot of difficulty with that. And so it's very important to keep in mind that whatever the prophecies say, good or bad, this is more certain than even a voice from heaven. It's definitely a million times more certain than anything you could possibly read or be told by anyone on the news, anyone in your church, or religious leaders, or anything else. Nothing is more certain than what is actually said in the Bible prophecies. Now, according to the Quran, it says, "In their footsteps we sent Jesus, the son of Mary, confirming the law that had come before him. We sent him the gospel therein was guidance and light and confirmation of the law that had come before him, a guidance and an admonition to those who fear Allah." So, according to the Quran, Jesus received a book from God. It's translated as gospel here. The Arabic word is Injil. But Jesus receives a book, a message from God. And in the Quran also says, "Those who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet, whom they find mentioned in their own scriptures in the law and the gospel," and then continues on there. But the main thing is, and the first quote is from Quran, Surah 5, Ayah 46, and the second quote is from Surah 7, Ayah 157. According to the Quran, we should see a book that was given to Jesus by God, and in this book should be predictions concerning Muhammad. So let's see what we actually find in the Bible. In the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 1, it identifies the book as the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. So the book of Revelation identifies itself as a book that was given to Jesus by God, and contains prophecies of things that are shortly to come to pass. So the first part of what the Quran said is absolutely true. God did give Jesus a book. So we have to find out, does that book actually speak about Muhammad? And if so, what does it say? Well, first we need to go into the background. Now, the whole framework of prophecy, when you're talking about the apocalyptic prophecy, you really need to start back in the book of Daniel. Daniel and Revelation very closely linked. We'll see a little bit later just how they're linked together. In the book of Daniel, chapter 2, we have the basic framework of the apocalyptic time prophecies. And we read, in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. And then the king commanded to call the magicians, and the astrologers, and the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king, and the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spake the Chaldeans to show to the king in Syriac, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, This thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known unto me the dream, with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut into pieces, and your houses be made a dunghill. But if ye show the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. They answered again and said, Let the king tell the servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. The king answered and said, I know of a certainty that ye would gain time, because ye see that the thing is gone from me. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you, for ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can show me the interpretation thereof. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that has asked such things of any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and he commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain. And they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and with wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, Why is this decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they should desire mercies of God of heaven concerning this secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of the God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth the kings and setteth up kings. And he giveth wisdom to the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee, and I praise thee, O God. Praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, for thou hast given me wisdom and might, and hast made known unto me what we desired of thee. For thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter. Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus to him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah, that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered and said, in the presence of the king, The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what shall come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, the secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have, more than any living. But for their sakes, thou shalt make known the interpretation to the king, that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and arms of silver, his belly and thigh of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. It's my daughter. Thou sawest till a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, the gold, broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them, that no place was found for them, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art the King of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head, O God. Now, the prophet Jeremiah described Babylon as a golden cup. Jeremiah 51:7 says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. And the Greek historian Herodotus testified the golden splendor of Babylon. I've got a section here from it. If you want to pause it and read that, you can. Now, the Assyrian Empire dominated the Near East for 3 centuries. Then, in the space of 3 years, it was destroyed by the Babylonians. The remnants of the Assyrian forces took refuge in Haran. The Babylonians captured it in 610 BC. The Babylonian king Nabopolassar wrote an epitaph for the Assyrian Empire. I slaughtered the hand of Sabarum, Assyria. I turned the hostile land into heaps and ruins. The Assyrian, who since distant days had ruled over all the peoples with his heavy yoke, had brought injury to the people of the land. His feet from Akkad had turned back, his yoke threw off. The Egyptians tried to reinstate their Syrian allies to power the following year, 609 BC, but failed. They only managed to gain control of some of the former Assyrian territory and failed to save their Syrian allies. Now, since the vision is primarily concerned with one power is replaced with another, not necessarily the beginning or end point of each kingdom, which can overlap, we can mark the beginning of the Babylonian dominance in 609 BC. In October 12th, 539 BC, the Persian king Cyrus conquered Babylon. Continue on, Daniel chapter 2, verse 38. After thee shall rise another king inferior to thee, and a third kingdom of brass, which will rule over all the earth. Now, the Greek historian Herodotus also recorded that the Persians used silver as the standard for a tribute paid by the satraps of the Persian Empire. We've got several sections here that talk about that, if you want to take the time to read them. And the Persians conquered the city Babylon in October 12th, 539 BC. And Prophet Isaiah gave a remarkably detailed prophecy concerning this. In Isaiah 45, 1-7, Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus his right hand have I holden, to subdue nations before him. I will loosen the loins of kings, to open before him the 2 leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. I will go before thee, make the crooked places straight. I'll break in pieces the gates of brass, and cut in sunder the bars of iron. I'll give thee the treasures of darkness, and hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest know that I, the Lord, which call thee by thy name, am the God of Israel. For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I have even called thee by name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me, that they may know from the rising of the sun from the west, that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. I form the light, I created the darkness, to make peace, and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Now, the Greek historian Herodotus described the conquest of Babylon in a way that strongly echoes Isaiah's prophecy. And then we read, Therefore was it some other man who suggested to him that he was in a strait what to do, or whether he of himself perceived what he ought to do, he did as follows. The main body of the army he posted at the palace where the river runs into the city, and then again behind the city set others, where the river issues forth from the city. He proclaimed to his army that so soon as they should see the stream had become passable, they should enter by this way into the city, having thus set them in their places. And in this manner exhorted he exhorted them, he marched away himself with that part of his army which was not fit for fighting. And when he came to the lake, Cyrus did the same things which the queen of the Babylonians had done as regards the river and the lake. That is to say, he conducted the river by a channel into the lake, which was at that time a swamp, and so made the former course of the river passable by sinking of the stream. When this had been done in such a manner, the Persians, who had been posted for that very purpose, entered the bed of the river Euphrates into Babylon, the stream having sunk so far that it reached about the middle of the man's thigh. Now if the Babylonians had had knowledge of it beforehand, or had perceived that which was being done by Cyrus, they would have allowed the Persians to enter the city and then destroyed them miserably. For if they had closed all the gates that led to the river and mounted themselves upon the ramparts which are carried along the banks of the streams, they would have caught them as in a fish wheel. But as it was, the Persians came upon them unexpectedly. And owing to the size of the city, so is said by those who dwell there, after those at the extremities of the city had suffered capture, the Babylonians who dwelt in the middle and did not know that they had been captured, but as they chanced to be holding a festival, they went on dancing and rejoicing during this time until they learnt the truth only too well. Babylon had thus been taken for the first time. Now 2 centuries later, the Greeks, under the leadership of Alexander the Great, conquered the Persian Empire and became the dominant power in the Near East and the Mediterranean. The final battle was fought in Gaugamela on October 1st, 331 BC. In Daniel 2 it says, "And a third kingdom of brass which will bear rule over all the earth." Now the Greek historian Herodotus tells an interesting story which illustrates why bronze is an appropriate metal for the Greeks, and describes how the Greeks had the bronze armor. You can read that story if you like. Alexander's empire was divided after his death and was conquered by Rome in a series of wars. This time period is known as the Hellenistic Age. It is generally regarded as running from the death of Alexander in 323 BC to the Roman conquest of the last Hellenistic kingdom in 331 BC. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron breaketh all these shall be break in pieces and bruised. Now the Macedonian king Alexander the Great led the Greeks to conquer the known world and issued a period of Greek dominance known as the Hellenistic Age. And this came to an end with the Roman conquest of the last Hellenistic kingdom in 31 BC. That was the Ptolemies in Egypt. The Roman conquest of the Hellenistic Greek world took place over several centuries through a number of wars. This just simply the last one. The prophecy seems to mark the change of metals with transition of power from one world power to the other. One good transition point would be the Battle of Pydna on June 22, 168 BC. In this battle, Roman forces broke the Macedonians and ended the rule of the Antigonian kings, which traced their power back to Alexander the Great. Now, the appropriateness of the iron metal can be seen in the heavy use in the weapons and armor. More importantly, the vision emphasizes the strength and power of this kingdom and its ability to crush all other kingdoms. And this is epitomized in the famous words of Julius Caesar: "I came, I saw, I conquered. Veni, vidi, vici." Much of Roman culture is built on showing its strength. This can be seen in its conquest, its brutal suppression of rebellion, and even its favorite entertainments, which included pitting gladiator against gladiator, gladiator against animal, and chariot races, which often included the deaths of the competitors. Daniel continues on. "And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it the strength of iron, for as much as thou saw the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay." Now you will notice that the interpretation spends a disproportionately large amount of time and detail in this phase. This is important because many of the other prophecies in Daniel and Revelation spend a great deal of time on this period. Now let's look at what it says here. In verse 41, notice a marked difference in this portion of the statute. When transitioning between the sections, the interpretation always mentions another kingdom arising in the previous ones. However, here we find something different. In verse 41 it says the kingdom should be divided. The division would contain both the strength of iron and the weakness of potter's clay. When we look at the history of the Roman Empire, we see that it was not simply conquered by a new rising superpower like the previous empires. Instead, the empire was divided in two after the death of Theodosius I. The Western Roman Empire, centered in Italy, was torn apart by various barbarian tribes that invaded it. Interestingly, some of these tribes initially entered Roman territory through agreements. These agreements often included military service rendered by the barbarians to Rome. Rome became heavily dependent on its mercenary forces. In fact, the last emperor was deposed by a barbarian, Odoacer, leading a Roman army. He was not leading an invasion, he was leading the army of Italy, one of the main Roman armies. Odoacer's reign was actually approved by the Roman Senate. This prophecy describes the divisions as mingling with the seeds of men, but not cleaving together. Throughout the history of Western Europe, the royal families have practiced intermarriage with the hopes of securing peace. However, no one has been able to unite Europe again for very long. It's remained divided. And in those days, in the days of those kings, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to another people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest the stone cut out of the mountain, without hands, that it break in pieces, the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, the gold, the great God hath made known unto the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Now we come to the part that describes our future. God will destroy all the earthly kingdoms. He will set up his own eternal kingdom, which shall last forever. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face, and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel, and said, Of a truth it is that your God is the God of gods, and the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and he gave him many great gifts. He made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, and Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat on the gate of the king. Now, we continue on with the next vision in the book of Daniel that covers the same time period. In Daniel chapter 7. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. And he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spoke and said, I saw a vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld, the wings thereof were plucked. It was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand on the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And beheld another beast, second, like to a bear, and raised up itself on one side, and had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said unto it, Rise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had on the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. And the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and had great iron teeth. And it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. And I beheld till thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was as white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool, and his throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands and 10,000s ministered unto him, and 1,000 times 10,000s stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And he was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people and nations and languages should serve him. And his dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit, in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near to one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me, and made known the interpretation of the things. The great beasts which are four kings which shall arise out of the earth. For the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. In Daniel 2, there was a statue of 4 metals and feet of iron and clay. Daniel 2 explained that the 4 metals were 4 empires, starting with Babylon, and then there would be a different period symbolized by the iron and clay feet. In Daniel 7, we see 4 beasts that the angel explains are 4 kings, followed by a period dominated by the little horn, which grows out of the 4th beast. Now let's see if these symbols adequately fit Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome, and a period after Rome, or after pagan Rome anyway. Lion. First was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and man's heart was given to it. Now the winged lion was commonly used in Babylonian art, and is a good symbol of Babylon. The rest of the verse seems to hail back to an incident with Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel chapter 4, which is a transcript of Nebuchadnezzar's letter. And it's a very good story and worth reading. I believe that's what it's pointing to when it talks about the lion being made to stand on his feet as a man, and a man's heart given to it. And I beheld another beast like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and had 3 ribs in its mouth. Of it between the teeth of it, and they said unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. Now the bear is an animal of tremendous strength, like the Persians. When the Persians first rose to power, it was through a joining of the Median-Persian forces. Over time, the Persians became dominant, just as the bear raised up on one side. There were 3 main powers that Persia conquered: Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. Moreover, the bear had 3 ribs in its mouth. A leopard. And I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had on the back of it 4 wings, back of it 4 wings of a fowl, and the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. A leopard is extremely fast by itself. After that, the 4 wings of the kingdom comes up with incredible speed. Alexander the Great set up his vast Grecian empire in just a few short years. The leopard has 4 heads, and Alexander's empire was divided upon his death. States in here in the history books, he was asked to whom he left his kingdom. Since he had no obvious heir, this was an urgent question. To the strongest, he replied. He also declared, his last recorded words, that all his foremost friends would hold a great funeral contest over him. Alexander's empire didn't pass to his family. Instead, the generals set up their own kingdoms and fought for several decades for control. By 276 BC, the Antigonid, Seleucid, Ptolemaic dynasties were firmly established, and the foundations have been laid for the Attalid dynasty, the 4 horns, or in the 4 heads. Continuing on. And now I know the truth of the 4th beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful. His teeth was of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns which were in his head, and of the other which came up, and stood before whom 3 fell. Even of that horn that had eyes in the mouth, and spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the ancient days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread down, break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of his kingdom are 10 kings that shall rise, and another shall rise after them, and shall be diverse from the first. And he shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change times and laws, and they shall be given unto his hand until a time is in dividing of time. Now we come to the 4th beast. After this, I saw in the night visions, behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceeding greatly, and had great iron teeth, that devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue of the feet with the feet of it. It was diverse from the beasts that were before it, and 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, came up another among them, low horn. Before him were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and mouth speaking great things. Daniel was especially interested in the fourth beast, and the horns which would rise up after the fourth beast. And the 10 horns of this kingdom are 10 kings which shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and shall subdue 3 kings. The Roman Empire was not conquered by one superpower, but was slowly conquered and divided up by a series of invasions. Now, arguably, this is focusing on the Western Roman Empire, as the Eastern Roman Empire survived another 1,000 years, but was destroyed in the events in Revelation 9. Now let's look at the little horn. Another power rose up after it that was diverse from the first. The first 10 horns are political powers, but this one is different. One of its identifiers is that it would subdue 3 of the other kings. Here I will begin to argue that the little horn represents the Catholic Christian power and its associates. There were many tribes that came and went over the centuries. If the Catholic Church is the little horn, then we would expect to see 3 tribes removed after the end of the Western Roman Empire, in other words, after the last emperor was deposed. This vision is dealing with kingdoms that emerged out of the Western Roman Empire. Then we would expect to see the Catholics rise to supremacy, aided by the utter destruction of 3 of these kingdoms. The classic historicist interpretation of this is that the 3 horns represent the Heruli, Vandals, and Ostrogoths. Now, this has been heavily criticized as historically inaccurate, and unfortunately this is fairly easy to do, since the interpretation is often presented in an oversimplified way that does paint a somewhat inaccurate picture of the complicated historic events. However, I do feel that the basic principles of this interpretation are correct. Here I'll try to present a more nuanced understanding of these historic events that explains why these events do fulfill the prophecy. Now, the last of the Western Roman emperors was Romulus Augustus. He was deposed in 476 by Odoacer. Odoacer was the son of Edico, the king of the Sciri. After the destruction of the Sciri kingdom, Odoacer moved into Roman territory, where he signed up with the Roman army. The Roman army of Italy was dominated by barbarians, which included Sciri, obviously, along with Heruli, Alans, and Torsilingi. Odoacer became the head of the army of Italy. He secured the favor of his barbarian followers by settling them in Italy. He then deposed Romulus Augustus and set himself up as king of Italy. Now, the army of Italy consisted of barbarians of various tribes, but for the sake of this study, we need to remember that the Heruli were among his primary supporters. World Encyclopedia describes Odoacer this way: chief of the Germanic Heruli people and conqueror of the Western Roman Empire. The Heruli were Roman mercenaries until 476, when they declared Odoacer king of Italy. Now, Odoacer was generally tolerant of religion and did not interfere with the Catholic Church's affairs. However, he was an Arian, which is someone who believes that God brought Jesus into existence and denies the Trinity, as were his Heruli supporters. The Catholic Church was Trinitarian. However tolerant he may have been towards the Catholic Church, an Arian king was a hindrance to Catholic, i.e. Trinitarian, domination over Europe. This is evidenced by the Catholic Church's statement that the mystery of the Trinity is the central doctrine of the Catholic faith. Upon it are based all the other teachings of the Church. Odoacer betrayed the Eastern Roman Emperor, who sent the Ostrogoth leader Theodoric to remove him. Theodoric killed Odoacer in 493 and settled his fellow Ostrogoths in Italy. Now, the Heruli kingdom, which is one of the first of the 3 kingdoms mentioned, received its death blow in 508. Edward Gibbon describes it this way: the assassination of a royal guest was executed in the presence and by the command of the king's daughter, who had been provoked by some words of insult and disappointed by his diminutive stature. In a tribute, the price of blood was imposed on the Lombards by his brother, the king of the Heruli. Adversity revived a sense of moderation and justice, and the insolent conquest was chastised by the signal defeat and irreparable dispersion of the Heruli, who were seated in the southern provinces of Poland. And another historian writes, Lombard power increased, in two perceptible stages. In 508, first of all, their forces crushed the Heruli. Now, the death of Odoacer and the destruction of his Arian Heruli supporters' seat of power marks the uprooting of the first of the three kingdoms, whose fall aided the Catholic Church's Trinitarian dominance over Europe. The Vandals were another Arian people who had captured the city of Carthage in 439 and ruled Tunisia and eastern Algeria. They even captured Rome in 455 and stripped it of much of its wealth. This is the origin of the term vandalism. They persecuted many of the Catholics in Africa until the ascension of Thrasimund, who ended the persecutions. This favorable policy was continued after Hilderic became king. He acted very favorably towards the Catholics and stopped their persecution and established good relations with the Eastern Roman Emperor. But he was overthrown by his cousin Gelimer, and this prompted the Eastern Roman Emperor Justinian to send his general Belisarius to conquer the Vandals. This brought Tunisia and Algeria back to full Catholic/Orthodox Trinitarian control. The Catholic and Orthodox churches were officially still one church at that time. He succeeded in defeating the Vandals and expelling them from Carthage. One historian put it this way: the Vandal kingdom was thereby ended. 95 years after Gaisaric's capture of Carthage, the Vandal kingdom had fallen. The Carthage in North Africa were once more Roman. Procopius estimated that there were about 80,000 Vandal men in North Africa at the time of Belisarius, and that almost all were killed in the war. While this is undoubtedly an exaggeration, it is certain that the Vandal nation was crushed and that there would be no rebellions, as there were too few left to fight. For the Roman Empire, the defeat of the Vandal kingdom was a victory of strategic importance. The campaign was swift, and in just a few months North Africa had been taken without any damage to speak of, and few losses. The enormous treasure of the Vandal kingdom was sent to Constantinople to finance the coming operations against the Ostrogoths. With North Africa secure, an assault on Sicily and the Ostrogothic kingdom of Italy was now possible. The threat of the Vandal fleet was gone, and the campaign in Italy could be supplied from North Africa and Sardinia without troubles. The surviving Vandals went separate ways, and soon they ceased to exist as a distinct people. In 533, Justinian incorporated into his legal code a set of letters between the imperial court and Pope John II, stating that this see is indeed the head of all churches, as the rulers of the fathers and decrees of the emperors assert. The words of your most reverend piety testify. This gave the Pope legal status of the head of all churches, but Rome was still under Arian political control. The Ostrogoths, who had killed Odoacer, were themselves Arian. This law would gain full effect 5 years later. Belisarius began his campaign against the Ostrogoths in 535. He captured the city of Rome and deposed Pope Silverius, who had been elected pope through Ostrogoth influence and who died soon after. In 537, the imperially backed Vigilius was installed as pope by Belisarius. Now, one historian records the treachery with which Vigilius ascended the papal throne this way. A letter was now discovered allegedly linking Pope Silverius to a plot to restore the city to the Goths. Forged by Julianus the Praetorius and Marcus A. Scholasticus, this letter was given to Belisarius, who ordered that Silverius be sent to Lycia. On 29th of March, Vigilius was ordained as the new pope, allegedly by the order of Theodora. Justinian was later ordered that Silverius be returned to Italy pending an investigation. Belisarius surrendered him to the custody of Vigilius, whose men starved him to death. Vigilius is said to have promised to give Belisarius 200 pounds of gold for his support. It was not the only hint of scandal linked to Belisarius during the siege. The Ostrogoths laid siege, trying to recapture Rome, from 537 until 538, when they were finally driven away from Rome. Now the war did continue between the Eastern Roman imperial forces and the Ostrogoths until 554, but they also were killed. But they also were killed and scattered and ceased to exist as a distinct people. Now, with the death of Silverius and the withdrawal of the Ostrogoths, or Arians, from Rome in 538, Vigilius was free to exercise his authority as head of all the churches. This firmly established the Catholic faith as the imperially backed official religion of the city of Rome and the dominant faith in the lands that had once made up the Western Roman Empire. Thus, the Catholic Church does fulfill the little horn's identifying mark as a power before whom were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. It became a major political power after the demise of the Western Roman Empire, and the three non-Catholic, the three Arian kingdoms, suffered their mortal blows in the process. Now the blasphemies of the little horn. And he shall spit great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a times, and dividing of time. Then it says that this little horn would wear out the saints of the Most High. Thus we can conclude that it would be a persecuting power. Here's what the Catholic Church said on that subject in its own words. The Catholic Church loudly proclaims that she has a horror of blood. Nevertheless, when confronted by heresy, she has recourse to force, to corporal punishment, to torture. She creates tribunals like those of the Inquisition, encourages a crusade or a religious war. Especially did she act thus in the 16th century with regard to Protestants. She lit in Italy, in the Low Countries, and above all in Spain, the funeral piles of the Inquisition. In France and in England she tortured the heretics, whilst both in France and Germany she encouraged and actively aided the religious wars. No one will deny that we have here great scandal to our contemporaries. Indeed, even among our friends and our brothers, we find those who dare not to look this problem in the face. They ask permission from the Church to ignore or even deny all these acts and institutions in the past which have made orthodoxy compulsory. One of the key identifying points is that the little horn will think to change times and laws. This is what the Catholic Church says about changing the laws of God. In the Convert's Catechism of Catholic Doctrine has a series of questions and answers to try to teach the Catholic faith. Question: what day is the Sabbath day? Answer: Saturday is the Sabbath day. Question: why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? Answer: we observe Sunday instead of Saturday because the Catholic Church in the Council of Laodicea transferred the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. And in Plain Talk About Protestantism of Today, another Catholic publication, we read, it was the Catholic Church which by the authority of Jesus Christ has transferred this rest to Sunday in remembrance of the resurrection of our Lord. Thus the observance of Sunday by Protestants is an homage they pay, in spite of themselves, to the authority of the Catholic Church. Now we can see that the Catholic Church has claimed that through its power it has changed the law of God. The next key identifier is that they shall be given into his hands a times, and dividing of time. This is one of the key time prophecies in the Bible, and it links Daniel and Revelation. Here are the other passages. Revelation 12, verses 1 through 6 and 14. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon its head. And its tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, which did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to deliver her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, which he hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And then verse 14, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, unto a place where she is nourished for a times, and half a time. So you see, 1,260 or 1,260 days is equal to a times, and half a time. Because verse 14 is a restatement of verse 6. Let's look at the other verses. Revelation chapter 11, verses 1 through 3. And it was given to me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not. For it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days in sackcloth. So you see, the 1260 days is equal to 42 months, is equal to time times and half a time. They're all equivalents of each other. We can see how this period converts perfectly if you understand you aren't dealing with solar years, but rather prophetic time. 42 30-day months comes to 1260 days. A time, one prophetic year of 360 days, times 2 years of 720 days, and half a time of 180 days, it comes to 1260 days, or 42 months. And here's some other passages that talk about events during this period. Daniel chapter 12, verses 6 through 7. And one man clothed in linen, which was upon the rivers of water. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the rivers of water, How long shall it be to the end of these winters? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which is upon the rivers of water, which he held up with his right hand, and his left unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for times and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. In Revelation chapter 13, verses 1 through 9, we read, And it stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon its horns 10 crowns, and upon its heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him power and a seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given to him to continue 42 months, same time period. This gives us a clue that this beast is the same beast. In fact, you'll notice that it does a lot of the same things as the little horn. Just in a different book and with different symbols, but same power. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, that blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And was given to make war with the saints and overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell on the earth shall worship him. His names are not written in the book of the life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. In this last passage, we see most clearly, it is this last passage that most clearly makes the connection between the beast and the little horn in Daniel 7. It is given power for the same length of time. It opened its mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven, and has given them to make war with the saints and overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. This perfectly parallels what the little horn does in Daniel 7:21. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. In verse 25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall war with the saints and the Most High. It's got the perfect parallels there. Same time period, and do the same things. The beast is also like a leopard, with the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion. We see here the repetition of the animals in Daniel 7. This simply provides a new aspect to the fourth beast, Rome, in Daniel 7. Rome copied Greek civilization to such an extent that we often use the phrase Greco-Roman today. In that way, it was like Greece, like the leopard. Greece also copied things from Persia, the bear, who copied things from Babylon, the lion. How should we interpret the 1260 days? What does it mean in reality? Now, Protestant theologians historically used the day-for-year principle in interpreting the apocalyptic time prophecies for centuries, although it has fallen out of favor in many churches today. There are several very good scripturally based reasons for adopting this interpretation. One verse is Ezekiel chapter 4, verses 4 through 6. Lie thou upon thy left side, and lay the iniquity of the house of Israel upon it, according to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon it, and thou shalt bear their iniquity. For I have laid upon thee the years of their iniquity, according to the number of the days, 390 days. So shalt thou bear the iniquity of the house of Israel. And when thou shalt accomplish them, lie again on thy right side, and thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah 40 days. I have appointed thee a day, each day for a year. In this passage, the prophet Ezekiel himself acts like the symbol. He lies on one side. He lies on his side one day for each of the literal years that he symbolizes. Now Jesus used the day for a year principle when predicting the 3 years remaining in his ministry until his triumphal entry in Jerusalem and his final week there. Luke chapter 13, verses 31 through 35. The same day there came certain of the Pharisees, saying unto him, Get thee out, and depart hence, for Herod will kill thee. Then he said unto them, Go ye until that fox. Behold, I cast out devils, and I do cures, and tomorrow, today, and tomorrow, and the third day. Nevertheless, I must walk today and tomorrow, and the day following. It cannot be, for it cannot be the prophet perished out of Jerusalem. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, which killest the prophets, and stonest them that are sent to thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, and as a hen doth gather her brood under her wings, and ye would not? Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. And verily I say unto you, ye shall not see me until the time come when ye shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. The book of Revelation begins with a special message to the 7 churches, which are often understood to symbolize different periods in different time periods that Jesus' followers would go through. One of these messages contains a brief time prophecy. In Revelation chapter 12, verse 10, it says, Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. And ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I'll give thee a crown of life. Now Christians suffered a number of persecutions under pagan Rome, but the most severe was the systematic persecution begun under the Emperor Diocletian in 303. The persecution ended in 313 with the Edict of Milan, issued by the Emperor Constantine I, who later converted to Christianity. Thus, the worst, most widespread, and systematic persecution of Christians by pagan Rome lasted 10 years. This matches the 10 days of persecution that Jesus warned the church about. From clues such as these, scholars have taken this principle and tried applying it to the time prophecies. It has consistently worked whenever applied to a highly symbolic time prophecy. Now, more literal time prophecies, such as the 70-year prophecy in Jeremiah, does not apply, because that's not really a symbolic prophecy. Now, remember I said that it was important that the defeat of the 3 tribes helped solidify the Catholic Church's position of power over Western Europe, and the last of them was defeated in 538 AD. If this is the beginning of the 1260-year time prophecy, then we should see the Catholic Church's power broken in 1798 AD, that's 1260 years later. In 1798, Napoleon had one of his generals imprison the Pope. This dealt a very serious blow to the power of the Catholic Church. Now, it has since recovered much of its influence, but it took many years for that to happen. We can see the mainstream Christianity, namely the Catholic Church, perfectly fulfilled all the identifying marks of the little horn power. And the reason I say mainstream Christianity is because that was the only mainstream Christianity at that time. There was no Catholics and Orthodox were one church. There's no separate Church of England. There's no Protestants. Just this one church overall in the Christian world. Now we've come to the point of Daniel 7. It says that the little horn power would speak great words against the Most High and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And it made war with the saints and prevailed against them. Furthermore, in the little horn, whose eyes were like the eyes of man, a mouth speaking great things. Revelation 13 elaborates on this when it says, And there was given unto a mouth speaking great things, and blasphemies. Powers given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given to him to make war with the saints and overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Revelation 13:18. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for as the number of a man, his number is 666. Later in Revelation 14, verses 9 through 11. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of the torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Now, I'm not writing this to as an attack on all Christians or even all Catholics. This is only meant to inform you that the Bible prophesied that the medieval Christian church medieval Christian world in general would become corrupt, blaspheming against God and His law, and attack the true followers of God. If you want to be certain you are not part of that, then you must use Scripture as your foundation of faith rather than the traditions of the church. Daniel 7, verses 26 through 28. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and his dominion and the greatness of the kingdom unto the whole of heaven shall be given to the people and to the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cognitions much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. Now let's review what the vision said earlier about the establishment of God's kingdom. Daniel chapter 7, we're going to look at verses 9 through 14, 18, and 22. I beheld till thrones were cast down, and the Ancient Days did sit. His garments were as white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool, and his throne is like a fiery flame, and his wheels is burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the words which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain, his body destroyed, and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient Days, and they brought him near him. It was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all nations, people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away. His kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever and ever. Until the Ancient Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possess the kingdom.